Lesli Linka Glatter. Few directors these days are as beloved as you. You won the Directors Guild Award for Mad Men, then a few years later you won again for Homeland, and neither time you had, a pilot or a finale, one of these more big buzz about episodes, but you won for episodes from the middle of the season. So what do you think it is about your work that other directors are responding to?
Wow. I feel incredibly honored to have been recognized, especially by one's peers. There's nothing greater than that. I think the show of Homeland has been an iconic show that makes people have conversations, both politically and character-wise. And I think that that is certainly part of the conversation. And the fact that the show changes every season, for me, it's been absolutely thrilling as a director because you're always reinventing. And, I love being a storyteller. I love doing what I do and working in this particular medium. And, I feel really fortunate that people have responded to the work. There are so many great directors now working in television. And, people are talking all the time how we're in this golden age of storytelling in television. And I absolutely agree with that. There's so much extraordinary work out there.
Yeah, and you've worked on dozens of shows, but I'd say at this point you are kind of seen as one of the faces of Homeland, at least among the critical community. We've got Alex Ganza, Mandy Patinkin, Claire Danes, and I would say, and you. So what is it about Homeland that made you want to kind of settle down?
Oh, that's a great question. I think one of the things is that it's a show that deals with the area of gray, a world of ambiguity. And it has an incredibly compelling female lead that is complicated and layered and doesn't always do the right thing, but is always really fascinating. And I think having that kind of a lead character at the heart of the show, and also everyone else, all the other incredible cast from Mandy Patinkin, F. Murray Abraham, Rupert Friend. And I think that it's set in our very contemporary world, looking at issues and politics and the world we live in. One thing that is just an iconic Homeland scene is when you have two people talking about an issue and they're on opposing sides and they're both right. And that to me is like classic Homeland. And I think, again, what I mentioned before is that every season we kind of reinvent the wheel. We're always in a new country and, with new cast, with a new crew, and it never gets easier as a result of that, but it always keeps it exciting. And certainly for me as a director, it keeps me very excited and compelled because we're always reinventing. Every season, before the writers go into the writers' room, we all go to DC and meet with the intelligence community. And that is an extraordinary experience. As you can imagine, this year was outrageous with what's going on in DC now. And that really kind of sets the framework for the season because, we're able to ask so many kinds of questions and the writers then go into the room after that.
Yeah, speaking of reinvention, going into next season, spoiler alert, you're not going to have Rupert Friend with you. So, yeah, I'm wondering, how did you differentiate, losing the male romantic lead this time versus when you did it last time with Damian Lewis?
I would say that's probably a question that I would ask Alex Ganza and the writers about, but they're such totally different characters. So I think there's a huge differentiation between the two. And Damian was, Nicholas Brody was Carrie Matheson's the love of her life, and she was partially culpable for his death. And, and she was carrying his child. I mean, this is the love of her life, and it's set her, that death has set her into motion of what has been happening in the last number of seasons, because season 4, she was unbelievably competent work-wise, but emotionally very cut off, and then going to Germany, she was trying to reconnect with her emotional life. you know. And Rupert has been, you know, Quinn, what an incredible actor and what an iconic character. And, you know, I feel like, you know, I hate to kill the actors and the characters that I love the most. It's horrible. But, you know, they are so similar. Carrie and Quinn are so similar. I would say that they're the two people that understand each other the most. And yet, in some ways, you can't be with that person. It's too close. But there's no one else in each other's life quite like they are to each other. And I think with what happened again with Quinn at the end of season 5, where, you know, he is never going to be the same man again. He will never be fully functional. And, you know, he says very clearly in the penultimate episode 11, that why did you let me live, you know, and please let me go. I think that he made the ultimate sacrifice, which was to sacrifice himself, to put himself in that, you know, horrible position to have to act. And he is a man and has been a man of action, and sacrifice himself to save both Carrie and the president. And that it was bigger than just the president, you know. So, you know, he did the ultimate that a person can do. So to me, to see him go in that kind of way, that was a very heroic, you know, departure.
Yeah, so that last episode where we saw him for the last time, you directed that one. But for the first
Yes.
time since you came on as producing director this season, you didn't do the premiere. And why is that?
Why is that? Okay, so you know, we had an amazing director. All of our directors who work on Homeland are extraordinary and are, you know, trusted travelers in our traveling circus. But Keith Gordon directed the first 2 episodes, and partially that was because we had a section that was being shot in Morocco for both Abu Dhabi and the Jewish settlements. And that was happening in episodes 3 and 4. And because I am there as an executive producer and I'm on staff the whole time, everyone decided that that would be the best possible scenario, was for me to go and do that section. So that's what happened. And Keith did an incredible job.
Yeah, so whenever I see kind of an interview with you via video or by text, I see that you bring up a lot about how, you know, there aren't enough women directors in the industry, of course, and how like more television shows need to hire them. But I also noticed that in the last couple seasons on Homeland, you've actually been the only woman. All your guest directors have been men. So I was wondering if you could speak to that.
Okay, that is a really good question. And, you know, I came on to Homeland in as a guest director in season 2 and on permanently, you know, as an executive producer in season 3. And we are mostly hiring. In fact, we are only hiring directors that have been there, you know, kind of from the beginning. And I think one of the feelings that Alex Ganza has is that, you know, who are you not inviting back? You know, if all of these directors have done such a fantastic job with which they have done, you know, who are you not inviting back to bring someone new in? And honestly, I keep saying, you know, I'll direct less. I would love to bring more women in, but you know, the hiring is a group event. It's not just me. That would be great, but that's not the world we're in. And again, we have a group of directors that have been with us, you know, for a very long time. So it saddens me because I would love to bring more women in. And when I've been in that position, have been able to do that. So yes, I encourage, you know, any showrunner to do that, you know, and, you know, I think when I'm, you know, in a position to do it, I will be able to do it more effectively.
And you typically direct about a third of the episodes each season, but lately it's become very trendy for directors to kind of take on the whole season. Is that something that you've ever thought about doing?
You know, not in the way this show is set up. Again, because we reinvent the wheel every season. So I would say that that won't happen in this show. I can imagine doing that if all the scripts are written ahead of time and you can cross forward. I can, you know, I would be totally open to doing something in that way, but I don't think that'll ever happen on Homeland, just because of how the show is set up.
That's true. Yeah, normally it's for shows that kind of shoot the entire thing before any of it airs. Whereas your
Yes.
next season is, I understand that it's shooting from October to March. Is that right?
Yes. Well, I go back. Yeah, I will go back. I think we're starting in September, like
Okay.
mid-September. That's what it's looking like.
So does that mean that you guys are going to be airing kind of right up to the end of the Emmy eligibility, or is it going to be held for the fall?
You know what, Riley? I don't know,
Okay.
actually. I don't know when the eligibility is, but um, I'm not sure yet of the actual air date, but we are pushing like a month from last year.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah.
So you did your first short film. You got your Oscar nomination. You did a couple more theatrical releases in the
Yes.
90s, but then since then you've just stuck to television. There's some talk that you were going to do Wonder Woman, but other than that, yeah, it's just been TV. So I'm wondering, why have you chosen that path to stay with TV?
You know, I go where there's the best material. And I did a couple of movies. For me, it's not about the delivery system. It's about the content of material. So that's where I've gone. I've gotten 2 movies made. I've had 4 movies fall apart right before shooting. So, I feel like I'm still developing series of my own. I'm developing features. So for me, it's about the best possible story and telling it in the best possible way. And now we're so used to seeing films, whether it's on your computer or on your TV screen or in a movie theater, we're so used to seeing things coming in all sorts of delivery systems. So I think you have to shoot TV like you shoot a film. Obviously you don't have the same amount of time, but I think one of the things that's exciting about working in TV right now is you really have to know what story you're telling. Like if you only have 10 days to tell your chapter of this longer novel, you need to know what to spend your time on. So, you don't want to be doing your most important scene at the end of the day where you're rushing to get it done. You need to plan things so you're focused on, what is this, what kind of changes your story, what turns your story. And I think that's exciting. And I think it makes you a better storyteller as a result of it.
So you're a DGA board member, and as an awards website, we were very excited when you guys came out with the first-time feature film award for the Directors Guild Awards. Now, I don't know if that's something that you're a part of, but yeah, can you tell us anything about what goes on with regards to discussions about new categories and revising categories and that kind of thing?
Well, and that came out of lots of discussions. And it felt like an absolutely important and necessary change to make, because these are the filmmakers of the next generation. And I think to award that talent and recognize that talent, and it is, if it's just the feature film category, there's so many people who have been working and for such a long time and have incredible bodies of work. And it felt like to separate that out felt like it was an important thing, and to support new talent coming up.
Now, I've always wanted to know about your involvement with The Leftovers, because what it appeared was that you were going to be the producing director after Peter Berg did the first couple episodes, and then they shut down production for a while, and then after you had done kind of your first episode, you end up just going back to Homeland, doing your normal job there. So I'm wondering, did you initially sign on for longer, and how did that work out?
No, actually, I signed on for exactly what I ended up doing when Damon Lindelof and Tom Perrotta and Pete Berg talked to me about it. It was definitely with the idea of coming in just for the beginning, because I was actually already committed to go back to Homeland. So it kind of worked out the way it had been planned to work out.
All right. And another show that you directed that I was wondering if you were going to have involvement in is Twin Peaks, which is coming back.
I
Now
know.
yeah, so that one you were involved with a long time ago. I feel like everybody
Yes.
always associates David Lynch with that. But again, it was actually you who was nominated by the Directors Guild. So was that something that they had talked to you about?
Is that actually true? I know that I was nominated for a DJ. It was my first DGA award nomination. I was blown away by that. But
yeah, they did not go for him.
That's crazy insane. But, working on Twin Peaks, I directed 4 Twin Peaks. It was my first series. It was as a show, an incredible game changer, and for me, a life changer. And, being part of that team, working, with David Lynch, both as an actor and getting to know him as an incredible creative director mind, was extraordinary for me as a new director. And, there are certain things I learned from him that have totally impacted my whole career. When I got to know him, and I asked him a question about a scene that was with Kyle MacLachlan and Michael Onkeen, and they were in a room where you look at in a bank where you open your safety deposit vault, where you look at your safety deposit box, and in the camera never moves. It's a wide shot holding the table, and in the middle of the table is a deer head. And no one ever refers to the deer head. And it's an incredible scene. And the deer head pulls the whole scene together. It's extraordinary. So I, got to know David, and I asked him, where did you get the idea to put that deer head on the table? And he looked at me and he said, it was there. I was like, well, what do you mean it was there? And he said, when he walked in the room, it was laying on the table, and the set dresser was going to hang it on the wall. And he looked at it and said, leave the moose head. And something cracked open for me creatively. It's like, come in with your plan, know what you want, but be sure you're open to the moose head on the table. Be sure you're open to the creative opportunities that present you, and so that you're open to life. And that has been something that literally I think about that all the time.
Yeah, if someone ever says be open to the moose head on the table, now I'll know the source.
And now you'll know. Yeah. And, again, I come out of being a modern dancer and a choreographer. So I'm a big planner. I plan everything. But that gives me the freedom to be open to the moose head.
Yeah. So were you involved at all in the revival that's coming back?
Not at all. I'm going to the premiere on Friday night. I cannot wait. I haven't seen, that cast in many years. And I guess the last time I saw David was maybe 5 years ago, and Mark Frost maybe a little more than that. So I am so excited to see what David and Mark have done, because they're both brilliant, and David is, an extraordinary creative director. And, I can't wait.
And what else do you have coming up next? I saw that you're doing the Law & Order anthology series.
Yes, I'm doing a mini series. I'm doing actually the first 2 hours of a mini series with about the Menendez trial with Edie Falco as Leslie Abramson, as the lawyer. And I'm really excited about that because, this is a very complicated case that was kind of tried in the media. And I think it's one that deals with celebrity. It deals with privilege, and people think they know what happened, and they actually don't. And I didn't either. So that's one of the reasons to tell it. So I'm very much looking forward to that. And then I go back to Twin Peaks. I go back to Homeland after that. I've got Twin Peaks on the brain. And I have my own development. So I have a number of series in development and a number of films. So, it's exciting.
Yeah, that's very cool. And lastly, what episode have you submitted to the Emmys this year, if you know?
What have I submitted? I've submitted the season finale.
Okay, and why did you do that one?
Why did I do that one? I think it's the culmination of so many of the stories that were laid out in the whole season. And I think emotionally for Carrie, and for, of course, Rupert, and what happens, the change politically that happens with this particular president. And it felt like the culmination of all of that. It's always so interesting with awards. Like, you can't even, it's such an incredible gift to be nominated. I'm grateful that I was nominated, and I kind of submitted, and then you just go on with your life because it's so abstract. So, the notion of anything more than just being able to be a storyteller, and that I continue to do this and love what I do, that's kind of the gift.
All right. Thanks very much, Lesli.
Thanks. Great to talk to you, Riley.